Over the past few years, we've seen several massive mods come out for the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. The game, in and of itself, has one of the largest modding communities out of any game ever, with you being able to download a mod for just about everything. In this video, what I'm hoping to do is get you excited for the future of Skyrim modding. Even though you might be thinking, oh, Skyrim modding is slowing down or dying out, but no, in reality, it has a lot of awesome things on the way and things you should be excited for. I'm going to be taking a look at some of the massive overhaul mods or projects coming to Skyrim and go over some of their more recent updates or progression, as some of them, actually two of them, had major updates come out just this very week. There's a lot of really great stuff going on with this and a lot of mods that you're probably going to want to pay attention to. A couple of these are potentially coming out in 2019, so it's not like you have to wait years for all of them to eventually get released. So first and foremost, looking at one of the more recent trailers that did just drop, we got the Skywind Call of the East trailer coming out just on this past July 1st. I'll take a closer look at this trailer in a moment, but if you've never heard of this mod, Skywind's doing pretty much what the title suggests, introducing Morrowind into Skyrim. And specifically, it is a fan-made recreation mod for Morrowind, bringing it to the Skyrim Special Edition engine. This will feature, of course, things like a graphical upgrade, some of which you could definitely see being showcased in the background, but even outside of that, implementing certain features that were introduced with Skyrim into the gameplay when necessary, or even just improving the gameplay overall with mechanics that neither game originally featured. And then in fact, if you are looking for some kind of Morrowind remastered or recreation mod, that is going to be this. The most recent trailer gives you a pretty good look at some of the detail and quality you can expect from this mod.
They have taken you from the Imperial City's prison, first by carriage and now by boat.
Firstly, that voice you hear at the beginning there might sound familiar, as it's actually one of the voice actors that participated in the Elder Scrolls series. Outside of that, of course, you can see just how good it does look, obviously looking quite a bit better than Morrowind did originally in 2001, but other little things from this trailer that really stood out to me. You could actually see working spears with spear animations, which I know is just going to be awesome to actually get to experience that in the Skyrim engine, and other things like moving silt striders. In the description of this new trailer, they share additional details, how they're actually recruiting for almost every department. I will have a link to the application down below, but also how they've recently reached a pretty substantial milestone that was porting over the entirety of Skywind to Skyrim Special Edition so they could take advantage of the newer engine, and also how they have a new and fancy website that you guys can check out, also linked down below. And overall, I'm pretty excited for this one. It's bringing a lot of awesome things to the table, not even just the graphical fidelity, the better engine, but they're also implementing some of the Skyrim mechanics such as smithing and crafting into this, but at the same time trying to make it so even though they're adding in some of these new features, they'll remain very true to form, and if you want that OG Morrowind experience, you'll be able to mostly experience that. But outside of just Skywind, there also is Skyblivion, and you might at first be confused as to how these two are related. Skywind and Skyblivion fall under the larger umbrella of the Elder Scrolls Renewal project. Think of that as the larger parent community overseeing these two mods. Each mod does feature its own team working on it, but they do have some collaboration between them. And of course, with Skyblivion, it's a fairly similar concept to Skywind, except Skyblivion is going to be recreating Oblivion in the Skyrim engine. I imagine for a lot of people that are especially watching my channel, this may be even more interesting. Oblivion is a notably newer game than Morrowind. As a result of that, a lot more people actually played it growing up, so seeing some of these modern assets, seeing it recreated in a modern scope will hit them in the nostalgia feels. Although even further, similar to with Skywind, with this project, they're also trying to recreate some of those Oblivion unique features, the created class system of underwater combat, and just speaking overall with this mod, I think you can tell by the background footage and images, they've come pretty far. If you're looking for a modern recreation of some of those original games, I would say Skywind and Skyblivion are pretty much your best hope. Todd Howard made it pretty clear at last year's E3, Bethesda Game Studios, at least as of right now, doesn't really have much interest in remasters, and even though each of these mod projects may still be a bit of a ways away, it is our best hope at getting to re-experience these games in a modern setting. Although outside of each of those, we also do have a separate modding project or team that you may have heard about, and that is going to be the Beyond Skyrim umbrella. So Beyond Skyrim isn't just one mod, it is pretty similar to the Elder Scrolls Renewal, how there are several teams working on several different projects, these projects varying in size, scope, and progress, but speaking generally, what Beyond Skyrim is trying to do with all of these is actually extend within Skyrim's borders. This one might sound even more familiar to you, as they actually do have a released massive Overhaul mod that was Beyond Skyrim Bruma, and even more recently, Beyond Skyrim Bruma's Forgotten Stories DLC, which just adds more to that massive mod and experience. So take for example one of these several projects, that was Beyond Skyrim Morrowind. This isn't a remaster or recreation of Morrowind, but rather at the time of Skyrim, giving you the ability to travel from Skyrim to the setting of Morrowind and see what's happening in that world at that time, at the same time as Skyrim. In total, as it stands right now, there are actually 7 Beyond Skyrim projects underway. That was Cyrodiil, Elsewhere, Iliac Bay, Black Marsh, Morrowind, Rostra, and Expedition to Atmora. Each of these featuring their own team, but of course also having collaboration between them, as they all are under the Beyond Skyrim umbrella. Expedition to Atmora is going to take you north. Here you're going to find a frozen landscape, and to some degree a battle against the conditions. This project is fairly well along, and in a recent development update looking at all the projects overall, they describe how they have several things already implemented. There's going to be little scrolls you could find scattered about that give you details about some of the past inhabitants of these locations, custom quest markers, assets such as armors and weapons, and you can see just from these videos that this is going to be a very interesting and kind of different location to explore and experience, and of course featuring its own custom set of quests and things to do. Moving on though, next we do have Black Marsh, which is pretty much going to be almost the exact opposite type of region. This will take you to a swampy area featuring different creatures and obviously a very different vibe. In the background you're going to be seeing some of the concept art and actually initial level design for this one, as the project is still in its earlier stages compared to some of the others. Although if you do want to keep more up to date in real time, they do fairly regular live streams as well as have a Discord and pretty much all the other socials that I will have all linked down below. Beyond Skyrim Cyrodiil is actually fairly well along. It was described in an April update video how most of the writing for this is complete, and now there's more of a focus on landscapes and interiors. This one is particularly interesting to me, as you could really see on full display some of those familiar looking areas. If you played through Oblivion, some of this is places you've been. The major difference in Beyond Skyrim Cyrodiil is that this is actually going to be 200 years later after the events of Oblivion, where war and the Empire's decline have affected the region, and that's the kind of things you're going to see and experience here through this mod. Cyrodiil is definitely one of the more expansive of the Beyond Skyrim projects, featuring a ton of new assets, armors, weapons, all kinds of different things for you to experience here, and based off the progress they've made thus far, it is coming along pretty nice. It definitely looks like it's going to be a very unique and complete experience, bringing us back even further to some of those more unique landscapes that we really just don't have in Skyrim. We also do see Elsewhere. This is another one that's fairly early on in development, more at the conceptual stage with concept art and some of the early writing for quests and dialogue going on. Elsewhere is the home of the Khajiit, and naturally they're going to have a pretty powerful presence in this one, along with some of the cultures or themes that come with the region, making it feel distinctively different, but also, as we can tell from some of these early landscape shots, look quite a bit different than what you're used to in Skyrim right now. Then we do have Iliac Bay, which is an interesting one that requires probably a little bit of explanation. The Iliac Bay project actually has 2 separate regions under its umbrella. It's dealing with both High Rock as well as Hammerfell. These are 2 vast regions that have a lot of lore and stories around them. So in our first release from the Iliac Bay team, we're not getting the entirety of Hammerfell and High Rock, but rather a look at 3 of the distinctive areas within these regions. And that first release will be known as 3 Kingdoms, taking you into some of these very interesting and well done settings, as you can see by some of the footage we see in the background. This is another one that is going to be massive. There's a lot of custom and new content here, and a lot of it is already done, as you can see in the background. I feel like a broken record at this point, but similar to the rest of Beyond Skyrim, it's going to feature unique quests, stories, environments, and places to just experience and explore. This is one I'm particularly excited for. Even further, it's highly speculated that either High Rock or Hammerfell is the setting of the next Elder Scrolls game, but then one I know many people are going to be very excited for. We do have Beyond Skyrim Morrowind. A recent update video showed us a lot of what has been done here, including some of the unique and memorable creatures that you did experience in Morrowind yourself, but also some of the various concept art and landscapes that have recently been worked on. This is another fairly new one, but you can see already that they have a lot done. The announcement trailer only went out on January 1st of 2019 for this, but similar to how I mentioned with Cyrodiil, since so many people have experienced Morrowind in the past so heavily, I think it's going to be really interesting to see this new take on the region, to see how it's transformed. But last but not least, with the project receiving the most recent update of just a couple of days ago, we then do have Beyond Skyrim Rostra. Just yesterday, a new development diary was posted around this where you could see some of the in-game landscapes, gameplay of this. You'll find this is a fairly war-torn land with even more battles along the way as things continue to get unsettling. As you can tell by the video and the screenshots, this is another one that's been progressing quite well and is fairly far along in development. Overall though, looking at Beyond Skyrim as a whole, it's one of the most ambitious and honestly successful projects in modding, at least that I've ever seen. How much they've already accomplished between their various projects, between the ones that are released and even the ones still a work in progress, but also just how much they're hoping to accomplish is truly astonishing. But at the same time, they've accomplished already more than almost any other mod team anyway. So I'm excited to see what they continue to add or expand with in 2019. Although if you guys do want to support them, they are recruiting among all of the various categories for these various projects. Some of the various projects have different needs depending on their state in development, but I'm sure many of you, even if you don't think so, could be of a big help or aid to these, and again, I will have links to everything down below. Although outside of that, just as a standalone work in progress mod, we do have Apotheosis. This has been a long work in progress mod that presently does have an expected release date of 2019 according to their ModDB page. This mod's going to task you with defeating 16 Daedric lords across 16 realms in Oblivion, and it's left to you in a very open-ended way. That's your goal and that's what you're meant to accomplish, but how exactly you go through and end up at that goal is totally up to you, the player. As you can see from some of the gameplay or images, it definitely has a darker and even more frightening theme around it. And although some people might be worried as they've heard about this mod in the past that it is dead, it's definitely not. The team behind this group is definitely one more to kind of hunker down and get work done rather than focus more on the PR or marketing side. And on their ModDB page, they have been regularly posting images as soon as just a couple of days ago. Going through this mod and into some of those various realms, you're going to see various things, whether it be new and unique quests, ruined cities, villages, new artifacts for you to find. There's a lot here, and you can definitely see a lot of work has been put into this. But fortunately, this is one of those mods that hopefully isn't all that far away from release. You can tell a lot of progress is already done, and it's definitely one to pay attention to and get excited for. Then we do have Lordbound. This is going to be another complete Skyrim experience. It has a lot of dungeon gameplay, but it's also going to have a bunch of new quests and a totally new region for you to explore. It's described as a story-focused expansion for Skyrim, and I would say that's pretty accurate, with also a lot of really great dungeons that you can see through some of the trailers I'm showing you in the background. The mod in its entirety is being described as being 30 hours plus of content, featuring one big main quest that does have true choice and consequence that will affect the region you find yourself in. Lordbound's going to take place inside of the Iliac Valley that finds itself in an interesting new predicament. Previous to this, the valley was sectioned off, but just recently it did open up its connections to Skyrim once again. And as you do enter in, you'll find that some of the locals do refuse to surrender their mountain fortresses to the Imperial Legion that now has a presence here, as the Legion holding this avenue would actually create itself as a very valuable trade channel. This is another mod that has a ton of progress done already. Even though online there haven't been a ton of updates as far as the past few months go, on their Discord server they have been reporting pretty regularly what's being done in the mod, sharing some images of that progress. And with this mod in particular, it seems like it is a fairly contained experience, but at the same time, a very complete one. Then we do have Olenveld. This is a particularly unique mod as it's actually based off of an existing book you could find in Skyrim and also could find in Oblivion. That book is known as the Exodus, and more or less what this mod is doing is creating some of the stories or tales in that book into a full quest experience. This will take you to a totally new island where you'll find two opposing factions at war, and you'll have the opportunity to side with one or the other. Along the way, you'll have new quests, new experiences, new armors, weapons, all of the same things you're used to with some of these previous mods. But with this one, it is actually trying to stay true to the established lore as much as possible, just from this one singular book. This mod got a recent update and a fairly lengthy trailer not too long ago, just this past April, and has been a work in progress for over a year at this point. And it definitely shows. photos, you can see this looks like a fairly unique landscape, still pretty true to Skyrim and what you're used to seeing here, but also featuring a totally fleshed out underground cave section that you can explore and will have several experiences within. This mod certainly seems like it is on the smaller scale compared to some of the others. It also looks like it's predominantly being developed by just one singular person, but either way, even from some of the gameplay we see, it looks like it'll have several new areas or regions for us to explore and experience that definitely look pretty enticing. But all in all, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. Hopefully you found it informative, hopefully you're excited for at least one or two, or maybe even all of these mods. As I mentioned in this video, they're at various stages of development, and some of them are fairly new, only beginning in 2019. But at the same time, almost everything has at least a considerable amount of progress made on it. I wouldn't say any of these are just throwaway mods that will be abandoned and forgotten about, at least not in the short term. Either way, I would say taking it all together, the future of Skyrim modding looks very bright, and it's something I'm very excited for. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, hopefully you found it informative. I'll have links to everything I talked about in the description down below if you want to check out the Discord, the mod pages, or even some of the trailers I showed you. But with all that being said, I thank you for watching again, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.